because of our awareness, we are also know that we are the doctors of society. So we ought to intervene and show the society that is sick the right path and try to cure it. So if the society now, as you say, that no, they will say that, but I have the right to vote, I have the right to walk on the pavement, right? But it's us who are active to reach out to say, first and foremost, the struggle of our ancestors has never been waged for the purpose of walking on the pavement, for the purpose of marrying the other race, for the purpose of entering a restaurant, etc. Okay. At the center was the disposition of land and the return of the land following the conquest, right? So that is the main. That's the key for us. That's the focus.
So if it happens by chance that, as Comrade Fighter Carles said earlier on, that if it happens by chance that you get a chance to be elected in power, how long will it take you to retain the land to its rightful owners? If it happens that you get in power,
we'll do it in
how long is it going to take you? Because it has taken the ANC for how long? For almost 112 years to retain the land. Because that's the ANC when it was formed, its historical mission. What was it about? Was it to bring back the land?
About land.
So it has taken the ANC almost 112 years to retain the land. It's even difficult even today to retain the land to its rightful owner. So if you as a EFF, by chance you get elected to be the governing party of the day, how long and how are you going to bring back the land to its rightful owners?
Yeah, I think this thing can be done. It's a simple thing. It can be done within a year, because what you need to do, you need to amend Section 25.
Who owns the land in South Africa?
The state owns some of the land, but White Monopoly Capital owns the
big chunk of the land.
Chunk of the land.
They own it.
The strategic part of the land.
So why is it difficult for the ANC to take that land from this White Monopoly?
As I was listening to,
is it not going to be difficult for the EFF to do the same?
No, it's not going to be, because it's about the mentality. It's about the willingness to do certain things. In fact, I remember of a civil rights leader in America called Malcolm X, who narrated a story about two slaves, the one in the field and the one in the house. The one in the house is literally living with the master. He's eating with the master. He's sleeping in one of the bedrooms. It's warm there.
Yeah, when the master is sick,
when the master is sick, he also want to be sick. So he's so
the Uncle Tom.
So attached to the master that he doesn't want to let go and start doing things for himself. So we are witnessing that in South Africa, where the ANC stooges and puppets are in the house of the slave owner. They don't want to let go. We in the EFF were very clear. We want black people to own the minerals. We want the country to industrialize. We want free education, and we're not pay. It's not the lip service. It's not politicking. Look at the tertiary institutions. There's the Sifunda Gankane campaign.
So what is the EFF doing in terms of helping addressing these issues, particularly these young people who are left out, who are struggling, to access bursaries, NSFAS? We have seen what has NSFAS become lately. NSFAS has become a personal piggy bank of the minister himself, Blade Zimbabwe. So as EFF, how are you helping? What are you doing to address the issues of the young people who are having difficult to access bursaries and universities? Those who are told that they can't get bursaries.
Well, bursary is something else, because obviously.
What's your position about NSFAS?
Yeah, NSFAS obviously state-owned, right? But we are saying our people, those who qualify. Like when I qualify, I'm talking about those who are poor, coming from poor family, and secondly, those who have met the requirement of entry level. So if they meet that, why should they be excluded on the basis that there is no finance? The ANC under Zuma made a pronouncement to say education is for free. So let's put that to the test.
What happened to that free decolonized quality education? Is it still coming? So what is the EFF kind of education? What are you promising?
Yes.
Are you also promising decolonized free quality education?
Exactly that, because when you check at varsities, the EFF Student Command, which is a youth wing at the university level, they are the one who removed some of the statues of what to call this guy?
Cecil
John Rhodes in Cape Town.
In Cape Town,
yes, because we ought to instill in the mind of the people that this one is not a friend. This one is the colonizer.
So I have not been seen as a racist.
No, we're not racist because we're fighting for our people.
So is EFF anti-white?
No, we're not anti-white. We have color anti-white. The problem is not the color. It's the police. Everyone is welcome to join the police, but you must embrace the police.
Yeah. Now let's talk about this important issue here, the issue of unemployment. Yeah. So it's very high, Comrade Carl, and the issue of particularly to young people. Young people are roaming around the streets. School dropouts, we've got matriculants. It's even worse today. We have graduates who are earning the 350 social grant. Now, as EFF, we have had many political parties promising voters that they will increase the social grants from. So, how much are you gonna? What's your take? What are you? How much are you going to increase on the social grant?
Okay, let's start
let's talk about the social grants and all of that.
Unemployment.
And the unemployment. Yeah. How are you going to create more jobs for young people? And also, Fighters Chaba, let's look at the over 35s. They also feel that they're being left out. You know, when you're over 35, they tell you you're too old, you can't get a job, they can't hire you anymore. And most of them, they're still breadwinners. The so-called the breadwinner.
Yes.
So now they feel that, look, guys, all the jobs here are about young people. So when you are over 35, then you're told, oh, no, you're too old, whatever. So what's your plan for young people above 35 and those who are over 35? What's your plan in terms of creating jobs? In which sectors are you going to create more jobs for the people?
First let's start with the age. The age 35.
35.
Yeah, it's not scientific because you can't say somebody of 34 or of 35 or 36 necessarily can do certain job, right? So because when you put age and you don't put the skill or you don't put experience, you are deliberately discriminating against those people.
The
you have to say there must be a linkage between the age and the requirement of the job.
It's always 18 to 34.
It doesn't matter. What I'm saying is that you can't use age scientifically to say this is the criteria that I'm going to use to hire or not to hire.
So you know what kind of criteria?
No, you remove the age.
Oh, you remove the age.
Look at the expertise the person is bringing. Look at the experience or look at the qualification.
Yeah.
Right. If the person is capacitated, given the chance, there are people who are over 50, but they can perform better than the 35.
Absolutely.
And also there are people who are 35, they can perform better than the one who are 50. So it's about the skill, the expertise, the experience. It's not about the number. We should not be fixated to the number. The number is not scientific. So for me, where I'm sitting, that is a pure discrimination against our people. But in terms of job creation, let's industrialize. CIC make a very valid point to say in South Africa we were able to make a chopper. You know, that Roy Folk.
The Roy Chop helicopter.
Yes. But we are prevented. Not that we don't have the willingness, not that we don't have the capacity. We do have the capacity.
We are prevented.
We are prevented deliberately like that.
By whom?
We are prevented by the agreement that we sign with the world and the West. I.e., for instance, Germany. There's an agreement in terms of trade to say South Africa must not produce a car. Ours is to assemble. Right? So when we come to power, such agreement must be nullified because those are the agreements that stand as a stampede to create jobs. So once you remove that, you are able to create a car from fresh. What's going to happen? You're going to need a big plant, and you're going to need general labor, right? And even before that, you're going to need people who are going to create, design that car. So generally speaking, in a nutshell, that's how you start creating jobs. Not this thing of assembling cars and then you are limited in terms of, increasing the number of employment. So industrialization of the economy is very key and fundamental. In fact, it's contained in our election manifesto to say South Africa must be industrialized. Right?
Okay.
Yes.
Now, here's another important issue.
Unto, if I can perhaps just come in. Haite Sono is correct about the kind of approach that we will have in terms of job creation. But what is important is that the EFF has committed ourselves in the chapter on jobs, which is the second chapter in the Elections Manifesto, to concentrate on the creation of jobs for young people. Because we understand that there's a very large number of young people, in fact the largest sector in our society, who are unemployed. And we need to empower them. So I want to read out to you just 2 sentences which emphasizes this, and it deals specifically with the need to amend the Public Finance Management Act, the PFMA, and the Municipal Financial Management Act, which is the MFMA, to compel national, provincial and state-owned entities to procure 80% of all goods from local producers and a minimum of 50% from producers of which 50% is owned and controlled by women and the youth. So what you see here is a very directed intervention from the side of government, both at a national and at a local government, at a municipal level, in order to procure goods amongst that sector of our population that are the most affected by unemployment and by the destruction of the economy as we experience it at the moment. And I think this figure that we commit ourselves of 80% of all goods that must be procured from local producers and a minimum of 50% from producers of which 50% is owned and controlled by women and the youth is really of great, great importance. That's the one issue that I just wanted to highlight. The other one that I wanted to highlight was the commitment that we make in where we talk about education and the development of the youth and research and development, where we say that the EFF government will ensure that NSFAS upholds its mandate. Now, it may sound like a simple statement, but it refers us back to the mandate with which NSFAS was formed. And that was to ensure that the poorest of the poor amongst our student population will be able to get an education.
So what went wrong?
Will be able to get also accommodation and will have provision for food and for learning materials, books and everything else.
What went wrong?
Corruption. The mandate of NSFAS was undermined and corrupted by corrupt officials and a corrupt board. We have a CEO that has been found to have misappropriated huge amounts of money. And the problem is that there's no accountability. When this corruption eats up, literally eats up the future of young people, there's no consequence. In fact, those officials are being protected because, as you've said in your remarks to Faitesono, the Minister of Higher Education and some of the officials around him are in cahoots, what we say in Afrikaans, kop in een mus, with these corrupt officials. So, if we want to get the mandate of NSFAS again re-established for what it was formed in the first place, we need to deal with that corruption. And the current board and the current management of NSFAS will have to be held accountable. And that's one of the things that an EFF government most certainly will do. But let me emphasize to you that there's no other political party and no other youth part of a political party than the economic freedom fighters and the student command of the economic freedom fighters that fights for the future of young people in this country like we do. The young people, the students also in our tertiary institutions. Know that there's only the EFF Student Command, of course also with the EFF as the mother body, that truly fights for their rights and also truly fight for a commitment that they must be able to get registered as students, and that the large numbers of eligible students that are prevented from being registered should be registered. There's no other party that works on the ground like the EFF and the EFF Student Command do in order to address the problems of students in tertiary institutions. And that is why in all these tertiary institutions, when you look at the latest elections for student representative councils, we have got in Afrikaans skoonskip. We make the slate clean. We get 100% of those who get elected are members of the Economic Freedom Fighters Student Command. And that is an expression of the hope that the students in South Africa have and the trust that the students in South Africa have in the EFF and the EFF Student Command. And this is something which is not enough reported about, and it is not understood in terms of its significance for the future of our country and the contribution that the EFF makes for the empowerment of young people and the way in which the EFF honors and respects education as a critical tool of empowerment.
Well said, well put. Now, finally, tell us more about your manifesto, particularly when it comes to the people living with disabilities. What does the manifesto say about that in terms of looking at the basic services for the people living with disabilities? How are you going to make sure that there's a better life for the people living with disabilities? And how are you going to make sure that the people living with disabilities are given equal opportunities to provide services to others while earning a salary? As economic freedom fighters, when it comes to people living with disabilities, how are you going to make sure that when it comes to sports activities, particularly, people living with disabilities are given opportunities to participate in sports in all levels, from grassroots level to the professional level, and also as economic freedom fighters? I mean, how are you going to make sure that the people living with disabilities are given the best support, especially when it comes to things like electronic wheelchairs, hearing aid, artificial limbs, dog guides for the blind, and make sure that there's a provision for them in each and every public space and building, you know, so that they can have easy access and quicker services as people living with disabilities. So what's your policy on that when it comes to the people living with disabilities as a EFF?
Let me start by saying that we believe in general that our national health care is in disarray and in crisis.
So how do we fix that?
And issues around national health care means that we need to put the necessary resources there for national health care, for hospitals to be upgraded, for the clinics in our various communities to function 24/7. As our Commander-in-Chief so correctly points out, a mother doesn't give birth between 8 in the morning and 4 o'clock in the afternoon. We must have facilities available throughout all parts of the day and night. Now, this general commitment that we make about a transformation of our national health care, and not the kind of nonsense that Cyril Ramaphosa gets up to with the National Health Care Bill, which he keeps on saying, if you give me a pen, I will sign. But the pen never seems to come into his hand to sign. And yet there's also all kinds of shortcuts and lack of proper understanding of what national health care should entail for a national health care bill to be successful.
Right.
Now, I want to give an opportunity to Fighter Sono to come in.
Right.
And then after that, I want to refer you just to a few issues that are set out in Chapter 9 of our manifesto on disabilities. Fighter Sono.
Okay.
Yeah, but when I want to zero in on, I mean, when we're doing door-to-door is a program that we have unleashed as the EFF nationally, where we go house by house, mukuku by mukuku, street to street, muntu omuntuin, moto, speaking to our people.
What are you speaking to our people?
We're asking them to say, come election, they're going to vote for the EFF. That's basic engagement. But obviously, they don't just respond blindly. They engage you, and they engage you. One of the things which they raise fundamentally is what I want to come from. I want to zoom in. Is the issue of where are you going to get the resources? I think we've dealt with it, but I think I remember that there's another element to it in terms of the resources that the state of the EFF, the government led by the EFF, where and how will it secure the resources. Earlier on we spoke about nationalization. I don't want to go there.
Yeah.
But there is what we call sovereign wealth fund that the EFF says must be created. And I'm going to break it down to you simple.
Right.
We have multi-choice here in South Africa. They at one time invested and bought shares in China.
Yeah.
And I think they called Tencent. And then there was return on investment. And the returns were huge and big. And it addressed most of the challenges financially in terms of multi-choice. So when we talk about sovereign wealth fund, you are talking about a fund that is state-owned and state-controlled, but it will invest offshore, meaning outside the country, among others. You can maybe in the Middle East, where there's a lot of oil,
or in Dubai,
there, or in Dubai, or in any other
country. Yeah.
The purpose is to create wealth for the state. But when the return on investment accrue or mature, with the money that we are able to address the issue of health, we are able to address the issue of education, issue of infrastructure development.
Okay.
Those are some of the things that we are raising sharply in our manifesto.
Now, these are the things that you are raising sharply. I'm glad that you are raising sharply some of those things in the manifesto. I wonder how much sharply are you raising this one, that I'm going to raise it to you now, which is a bit of a concern. Fighter Carl, we are going to experience one of the toughest ever elections since 1994. Now, what work on the ground have you done, or what work on the ground are you doing as a EFF in terms of voter education to be voters of the EFF, particularly people on the ground, because these are quite very complex and complicated elections. Why I say so? It's national and provincially, and it's one of its kind compared to the previous elections. Now, the critical issue here, and a very interesting fact, Fighter Carl and Fighter Sichaba, is the 3 ballot papers, which I'm very worried about, that there hasn't been enough time for the voters to familiarize with the so-called 3 ballot papers that they are going to use on the day of voting. And I'm also a bit worried about the proclamation of the IEC, that it seems like the IEC didn't consult thoroughly in terms of giving the country, the people, the voters enough time, because it has proclaimed the elections at the early stages of the year. Surely they should have thought about it to say, well, let's give South Africans a chance. We're going to proclaim elections later in the year so that people can prepare themselves enough. They can give themselves enough time. People can prepare themselves to campaign. Moreover, people must familiarize themselves with the faces of the people that they will be voting for. Because now the other advantage to other political parties here is because it's easy for the ANC because Ramaphosa is popular, is the face of the ANC, is the face and the voice. It's easy for the Democratic Alliance because John Steenhuisen is the face and the voice of the DA. Same applies to the EFF, same applies to other parties. But what about these up-and-coming political parties, the new political kids on the block, whereby the majority of South Africans have not yet familiarized themselves with those faces? It's only 3 top 4 parties that people are very familiar with the faces of the leaders of their parties. When you see red regalia, you know this is the CIC. When you see the blue wave, then you know, well, this is John Steenhuisen. When you see black, yellow and gold, wow, this is Babagatin Swallow. You get what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah. Now, but what about other parties? Whereby I think the IEC has not given enough time for South Africans to yeah. What's your take on that?
You have got a disempowering habit of asking many questions in one. And I don't want to lose any of those questions because that will be disempowering. I think all the issues that you raised are critical. But let me just deal very quickly with this issue of disability, and then we're going to come back to the issue of voter education, the reason why the elections have been declared in the way that it has been declared at the early part of the year, etc. I just want to highlight to you what we say in our chapter on disabilities. We say that the EFF will introduce policies in both the public and private sector to impose measurable goals. And here again, it comes down to the fact that the EFF is scientific in its approach and target the recruitment, the employment, and the retention of people with disabilities and impairments to promote their economic independence and reduce their dependence on charity, because we don't want them to be dependent on charity. They must be able, as people with disabilities, to function in our society. And that's why we've prioritized the issue of disabilities to the point where we say that it will in fact be under an EFF government, it will be the president, him or herself, who will assume direct responsibility for people in vulnerable situations and report on the progress annually in the State of the Nation address to ensure the promotion, the formulation, and the evaluation of the policies, the plans, and the programs of the national and the sub-national levels to further equalize opportunities for persons of disabilities. And we will ensure that all government buildings and facilities such as police stations, in fact all government facilities, hospitals, clinics, etc., are accessible to people with disabilities and impairments. There are 4 pages, in fact 24 different points in those 4 pages that deals in detail with the issue of disabilities. Now, we don't have enough time
we don't have
to
enough
discuss
time.
it.
We'll have another discussion for some time.
I would even love to have one whole session just on the issue of the empowerment of people with disabilities to be able to function in our society, not on the basis of charity, but on the basis of adequate empowerment for them to become full citizens and productive citizens in South Africa. Now let's come to your question about the elections. First of all, in terms of the Constitution, Muntu, it is the President's prerogative to declare the date of the Constitution. Obviously, he consults, but ultimately it is his prerogative. So we've now got this date. It was given to us by the President, and we have to live with it. Of course, the Independent Electoral Commission has got a duty and a mandate to do voter education. I'm not sure that the IEC is doing enough, but what I think is critically important is that we as political parties, and here I can only talk for the EFF because that is the political party where I am, that the EFF is working on a daily basis, day and night, in our engagement with people from door to door, face to face, to talk about the elections, to explain our manifesto, as I'm doing tonight and Fighter Sono is doing tonight, but also to explain the 3 different ballot papers and how to vote. So we have taken on ourselves also as the economic freedom fighters the job to empower our South African voter, because we want to see every possible South African voter to vote correctly and to vote for the EFF, to empower them also with voter education, also about the issues that you've raised. So from the EFF side, as I say to you, we work day and night. And we believe very strongly that there's no replacement, there's no substitute for face-to-face, door-to-door engagement with every registered voter in South Africa. And there's no other political party that works as hard as the EFF does in doing door-to-door. I'm sure you've seen the Red Sea everywhere. The EFF members all over the country doing door-to-door work. Fighter Sono, please come in. You are doing
finally,
a lot of that work.
Let's wrap it up. Finally, what's your message, Fighter Sono, to the people, particularly the first-time voters? What's your message to the first-time voters and to all the people who will be voting on the 29th?
Well, I'm saying that they must vote for the EFF. And we are now glad to say that the EFF as a brand is now known in South Africa and in Africa. So that should not be difficult for a voter to identify the EFF. We are not worried about other parties.
Are you walking nice and slowly?
We're cruising nicely.
We're cruising nicely.
The Makino research put us at 30%. Makino research put us at 30%. We have very nice.
Sure.
And that is before we have started the groundwork. Now we are at the mode where we are campaigning, we're talking to our people, as I told you, door to door. That we hope that ultimately at the end, the number when we go to the election will increase. But I'm not worried about those. I don't know what they call them, Reza Mzansi, something like that. Reza Mzansi. Or that's right. I thought it's Reza Mzansi, and there's another one called Osara, something like that. We're not worried about for all those are big mouths, right? So we are determined to arrest poverty come election, to change the life of our people for the better, to nip in the bud poverty, crime, and lot of dissatisfaction about our people. We want to empower people. And it's only the EFF that speaks about the genuine empowerment of our people.
All right.
Not clowns. Thank you very much.
That's Fighter Sonoda and Fighter Kalni has. To all the EFF.
Muntu, if I can just say,
let's be fast and furious.
I'll be very quick. At the beginning of this interview, I spoke about the need for us to build a fundamentally different social order. That is what the EFF wants to do. The ownership of the land to the people, the nationalization of the South African Reserve Bank, the creation of a state bank, making sure that our state-owned enterprises remain in state ownership and are properly managed, and that we develop and grow our economy in order to serve and empower our people. And finally, we really do not care about these other little parties. They are funded by the Oppenheimers, they are funded by the Ruperts. It's their problem if they are not known. So they do not deserve to be known, Muntu.
The last question.
We are here to do our job. We are concerned about bringing our message of economic freedom in our lifetime to the people of this country.
Who's funding the EFF?
The EFF is funded by the people.
Is it not funded by Mazotti?
Ah, come on.
I'm just...
Now you want to concentrate on one potential funder.
I'm just kidding.
Honestly.
While others are funded by the John Soros and Oppenheimers and all of that.
The EFF
Sure.
is doing crowdfunding. I'm sure you've seen the calls made by our Commander-in-Chief, by our Treasurer General, and we are working. We are not bound by the resources that we have.
So you're not
we
being
are
funded
bound
by anybody. You
by
are
our
crowdfunding.
commitment.
You are
We are
crowdfunding.
bound by our commitment to save our country.
Yeah.
And it is that commitment that drives the economic freedom fighters. It is not the money of white monopoly capitalism. We are not in the pockets of any white monopoly capitalist.
Even that guy who's alleged to be a cigarette smuggler. We are not in his pocket.
I'm not
Mazotti.
going to comment further about that. That's unnecessary.
Okay.
You know
we'll leave it
who
for
we
some
are,
other time.
what we stand
We'll
for.
leave it for no. You know what I'm happy about it. I mean, the CIC is a very honest man. He's even admitted that. Look, I cannot deny this man Mazotti. He was there when all of them, no one, wanted to help the EFF.
No, but you're right.
Except only one man who said, "Guys, I know the way you're being expelled by the ANC,
But you see-
but I'm prepared to help you."
Why I
wherever."
respond like I do
Yeah,
is because the Mazotti issue is thrown in as a red herring.
yeah,
While the reality is, as you quite correctly say,
yeah.
when the economic freedom fighters, more than 10 years ago, in 2013,
Yeah,
was being formed, it was Mazotti that made that payment available
Absolutely.
in order for the EFF to register.
Yeah.
And so what?
so what?
Exactly. Thank you.
Thank
So
you.
what?
Guys, there's fighter Carl Nihas and fighter Sichavasono. Thank you guys for joining us. I wish you all the best, man, guys. So let's talk after the elections and then we'll see. By the way, you know what we're going to talk about? We'll see which other parties are going to go into coalition with. But most likely, I heard the CIC saying, well, by the look of things, MK is one of the parties that is likely to form a front because seems like we share similar ideologies, isn't it?
Why not?
Why not? Yeah.
The need for left progressive
Yeah, the less progressive
political
forces.
parties to work together is an important one.
So I'm prepared to work with the MK.
Let us wait and see
Yeah.
what is the outcome of the elections. Let the voters speak.
Yeah.
And then we will talk about how we put together a government on the basis of the wishes of the voters. But as I've said to you before, Muntu, our hope, our ardent wish is for the economic freedom fighters to emerge as the majority government in South Africa. And if that does not happen, that the EFF will emerge as the strongest left progressive force to lead this mission that we have, which is the mission for economic freedom in our lifetime.
Economic freedom in a lifetime. Thank you so much. Thank you very much, Comrade Carl. And thank you, Sechava, for taking time to come and talk to all the fighters. The future is in the hands of the fighters. I thank you.